Members of the jury, you are the sole judge of the facts and you must keep an open mind. You must neither offer nor express an opinion as to whether the defendant is guilty or not guilty until I finally give the case to you. People and defense counsel will provide opening statements, but what counsel for either party says in the opening statement is not evidence. Evidence consists of testimony of witnesses under oath and exhibits which are introduced into evidence. After the district attorney and the defendant offer witnesses and evidence, they will provide closing arguments. Then I will instruct you on the law and you will retire for the purpose of reaching a verdict. You will now proceed to the next step in the trial, which is the opening statement by the people.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, people will prove today beyond a reasonable doubt that on November 10, 2006, in the area of Lynbrook, Long Island, the defendant, John Knight, along with two other people, abducted 16-year-old Teresa Foreman and beat, raped, and strangled her to death. The defendant is charged with 2 counts, murder in the second degree and rape in the first degree. John Knight was first interviewed on March 21, 2007. John Knight was again interviewed on March 25th at a local police station. The police told him that they didn't believe his story about not being involved. At this point, the defendant began to give the police several explanations for his involvement in the death of this young girl. Finally, after being caught in several inaccuracies, contradictions, and bold-faced lies, the defendant had fully admitted to how he helped Dennis Holden and James Rosen rape Teresa Foreman. After he signed this confession, he agreed to take the police to the Lynbrook area and show them where the incidents had occurred. Then the defendant was taken to the district attorney's office and explained how he participated in the rape and murder of Teresa Foreman. This interview was videotaped. Prior to making his confession, the defendant was advised of his rights by detectives and that he was willing to speak to them regarding the murder of Teresa Foreman. Therefore, the defendant confessed voluntarily and without the violation of any of his constitutional rights. Thank you very much.
You were selected as a jury because the defendant, the prosecutor, and myself believe that you can be fair and impartial. The judge will instruct you later on that the presumption of innocence rests with John Knight. What John Knight and I are asking you in this case is that you sit through the entire case and listen very closely to all the evidence and weigh the evidence. You wait until the judge gives you his instructions on the law. You take the instructions as the judge gives them to you, the facts as you find them in light of those instructions, and then for the first time, consider letting the presumption of innocence lead John Knight. Please deliberate and come back with the verdict that you as jurors feel, in light of the facts as you find them and the laws the judge gives you, is appropriate in this case. Thank you very much.
Your Honor, may I play the defendant's videotape confession, which is the People's Exhibit 4?
Yes, you may.
Here's the conversation excerpt from the defendant's videotape confession.
I have before me a copy of a statement. Do you recognize this particular statement?
Yes.
Is this your signature on this particular statement?
Yes.
Did you read the statement?
Yes.
Is it true?
Yes.
Can you tell me what happened when you, James Rosen, and Dennis Holden saw her for the first time?
We saw Teresa Foreman walking down the block. James and Dennis talked to this girl from the van.
What happened after that?
She said she just got fired and got in. I was trying to go in front, but she slapped me, so I punched her in the face and then she fell. So I jumped on her to calm her down, but Dennis was taking her pants and underwear off and tried to stick his penis in. James was driving and somehow we ended up at a graveyard. James came to the back of the van and he was having sex with her. Took a blanket out of the van and lay on the graveyard ground.
Did you engage in sex with her?
No. When everything was done, James and Dennis took her out and laid her on the blanket. Then gained her consciousness and said, I gotta tell. Someone threw me a rope and wrapped it around her neck twice. Tightened it like this, and then her body went limp. Then we went to our second destination. James and Dennis carried the body towards the wooded area by the railroad track. At a certain point, we rolled out the body from the blanket. Then we threw leaves and dirt on her body and we crates on top of her body. And then we left.
What you're telling me now is based on what you remember, correct?
Yes.
Have you been treated fairly today?
Yes.
You may call your first witness now.
The people call Dr. Mark O'Connor to the stand. Dr. O'Connor, how long have you been employed with the medical examiner's office, and can you describe what your duties are?
I've been working there for 30 years. My duties are to investigate situations involving death. I perform autopsies. An autopsy is the examination of the decedent's body, and representative sections of every organ are taken for further microscopic study, and a cause of death is arrived at, and a mode of death. Furthermore, my other duties are collection, identification, examination, individualization of blood and other body fluids as they relate to medical legal investigations.
Could you describe what your training and experience for your field of work is?
I have a doctoral degree in medical biology from Johns Hopkins University with an emphasis in forensic serology. I've taken advanced courses in forensic serology at the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia.
On December 6, 2006, exactly what did you observe while conducting the autopsy?
There were contusions of the face. There was ecchymosis or black eyes. They were consistent with blows by a fist. There was extensive trauma to the neck, which encircled the neck anteriorly. There was considerable amount of hemorrhage and neck injury. A violent, tightening, constricting force would cause such neck injuries.
Based upon the entire autopsy of Teresa Foreman, do you have an opinion within a reasonable degree of medical certainty as to the cause of death?
Yes, ligature strangulation as a result of a homicidal act.
And what else did you observe?
I also took vaginal swabs and oral swabs of the deceased. I tested the slides of the vaginal swabs, and I found that there were numerous intact spermatozoa present on the smears. Spermatozoa is the male sex cell.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Doctor, in your report you stated with a reasonable degree of medical certainty, make a findings as to the time of death of Teresa Foreman?
Not the time of death, but an approximation of my observation of the body at the scene. I thought that 2 weeks was a reasonable period of time for the position of the body and the overall condition. That certainly is not a positive observation. It could perhaps be as short as 7 days.
You said that you took samples from the mouth and rectum, but you did not find anything from the mouth and rectum. Is that correct?
The test results were negative.
Do you have any knowledge as to how long a sample of semen or a trace of semen could remain in a human body or on a human body once it's exposed to the elements?
It has to do with the mobility of the victim, but the indication of spermatozoa has been detected in one report in 1974 as long as 16 days in a dead body. And there's also been another reference cited where it's been present for 4 months in a dead body.
Can you identify semen and actually particularize it to one person?
DNA test was done to try to individualize it, but there was no way of identifying anything other than the victim's own secretion. The semen belongs to a single unidentified male, but we failed to locate the person from FBI's National DNA Database who matches the DNA sample we found from the victim.
Did you run tests to check whether the DNA sample matches to John Knight or either of his co-defendants?
Yes, I ran several tests to check for DNA match, but the test results indicated clearly that the semen sample from Teresa Foreman was not Mr. John Knight's or his co-defendants.
So is there a possibility that the sample taken from the body of Teresa Foreman is from previous sexual activities, several days or even 2-3 weeks prior to her death?
Yes, it's possible that semen can remain in her body for many days. We just couldn't locate a match from the FBI's national database.
I have no further questions.
And you said that the semen sample did not match with the defendant or his co-defendants. Is it possible to collect no semen sample from a rape victim if a perpetrator used condoms or ejaculated outside?
Yes, it's possible to collect no semen. Although the perpetrator ejaculates outside, you can find a trace of semen from the victim's body if there were vaginal penetrations, because a very small amount of semen can be detected. But if condoms are used by the perpetrator, no semen will be found from the victim's body.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Please call your next witness.
People call Detective Tim Gerber. Detective Gerber, how long have you been a member of the police department?
Presently in my 17th year.